Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Superannuated Starman, a podcast about retro games. I'm your host, Sean Ryan, and today with me is Chris Duerksen. How you doing, Chris?
Good.
Good stuff. All right, today we're going to be talking about a classic on the Super Nintendo, Super Mario World. First, we're going to start off with a very brief history. It was developed by Nintendo and released as the launch title in North America in August of 1991 as a pack-in for the Super Nintendo. I'm leaving out PAL and Japanese release dates because Chris and I both grew up in North America. Super Mario World came with the Super Nintendo and two controllers. It originally sold for $200, which, taking into account inflation, that's $400 in today's money. And Chris, since you're the guest, why don't you start us off and talk about how you got your Super NES and what your memories are with the game Super Mario World.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for having me. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
What Super NES you said came out in '91.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually had to call my dad and ask him because he said he got the Super Nintendo right after it came out. So I'm assuming actually I had to look it up. It came out in November of '91. So I'm guessing
It was November?
Yeah, I believe so. Oh wait, you said August. Oops.
I could be wrong.
But anyways, I'm guessing he probably got around Christmas time, and realistically, I was 7, so my memory is kind of spotty. But so he got it right after it came out, and I at the time was playing Nintendo. I had just gotten Nintendo like about a year before then, so I was still playing all the regular Nintendo Mario games, and I got to see my dad 1 week in a month, so I got to kind of chip away at Super Mario like 1 weekend at a time, and so I was still struggling with the regular Marios when I started getting introduced to Super Mario, and Super Mario, I don't know. I feel like I'm on a tangent. I lost my thought already. But
That's fine.
So yeah, 1 week in a month, got to play it, and it was completely different than the regular Nintendo Marios that I was playing at the time. And only getting to play it 1 week in a month was way different than most kids. Whereas I'm sure, like when you got it, you probably just dove in and just spent hours and hours and hours.
Oh yeah, binged
it. Yeah, exactly, right? You probably beat it within, man, I would say gracious, like we were kids, so let's say you probably beat it within a week. But yeah, for me it took several months worth of weekends in order to actually finally beat it. But my first memory of it was my dad had it hooked up to this tiny little, I don't know, 1980s mini TV that was probably like a 6-inch screen.
Oh wow!
Like the TV was thicker than it was wide. Like deeper than it was wide. One of those little things, tiny little TV. They had it set up in their guest bedroom, which is where I got to sleep when I came up for visiting. So my first memories are actually watching my dad and stepmom play it as I fell asleep and stuff. And finally, like, I don't know, every time I play it, I have my own little save file. Like I always put my stuff in the C slot, so that way I can keep my own progress. But every time it came up, I'd kind of chip away at my little save file. But then I don't know, more often, or I should say, as the months went by, like the Super Nintendo went from starting off like in the guest bedroom on the tiny little TV to being moved to like the living room on the good TV, and it became less of a little side game thing that they would keep tucked away, and then it became more like the family entertainment system that it's meant to be. And yeah, I remember my dad playing, my stepmom playing, taking turns with my brothers and sisters, and just and only being able to play 1 week a month. It was almost like a little snapshot. Like, I don't know, like I said, like for me, like my little slave slot, I was still working on Yoshi's Island and the Donut Plains, and then I see what they were playing on and their save slots, and like I remember my stepmom working on Star Road and all the secret levels like the gnarly and tubular and all that good stuff, and just being like, what is that? and just and just kind of seeing like taking it one bite at a time and also getting to experience like what the end game was. And it's kind of weird because like for me, Super Mario World seemed like a huge game. Like each section seemed like an entire world map to me because
absolutely.
Yeah, because and plus I only got it, a few hours a month. So like just getting through Donut Plains was an accomplishment. And getting, like each castle was like, oh, I made it, And so the game, seriously, like I mean, it took me, I don't know how long it took me to actually beat it the first time. But I remember like getting to the Star Road and like seeing Bowser's Castle, like what is it? I don't know. You can see Bowser's Castle from the Star Road in Donut Plains, but you can't reach it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I just remember seeing that and it taking months to finally, months or honestly even like a year or two to finally reach Bowser's Castle myself, like on my save file, and get through it. But that was the nice thing about Super Nintendo. I mean, and Super Nintendo and also this Mario in particular is the fact that it had save files. Because like you remember playing like Mario 1, 2, and 3, you pretty much you raced through them as fast as you could, or
absolutely.
or you risked leaving your Nintendo on all night long and hoping that it didn't glitch out and reset or something. Like so like those games were meant for speed, whereas this one was just a nice slow burn for me. And yeah, it's just totally different. I don't know, like it was great. And also and the fact that like and Super Mario World was so full of secrets, and like I said, it just seemed like such a huge game to me that like when I got to play it up at my dad's house, like learning the little secrets, like I don't know, down in like with my mom, me and all my friends had the regular Nintendo. I didn't get a Super Nintendo until like 96 or 97. But
That's
all my
late.
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't know you didn't get that till that late.
yeah, and I never actually owned Super Mario World. I've never actually owned a copy of it myself until I got the Wii and bought it on the Virtual Console because I was always playing it at my dad's house. But the same, in that same token, the game never got old. It never got stale. That was like a game. They moved from house to house. Like it seems like I literally that game grew up with me because I started playing it when I was 7, and was playing it all the way through high school. Still, like it never got boring. It was super cool because, and that was also before the internet. So like the only time I had a chance to learn about secrets and stuff like that were from talking to other kids that were playing, like with my mom, I had the Nintendo and all of our friends had the Nintendo and we talked about Nintendo stuff. And then when I come up to visit my dad's, like they knew, their friends had kids that had like every Nintendo, every system, every game, knew all the secrets. So like when we had like a little family get togethers, play dates or whatever, that's when I get to learn like the secrets for Super Nintendo. And it was almost like piecing together this masterpiece, like one little piece at a time. And it was seriously like the most delayed gratification ever because it took forever for me to finally, 100% it. And then after I did, that's pretty much what it was every time. And the replayability on that game is just amazing. I still play it. Like, and not just because you asked me to for this podcast, but that is still like in my wheelhouse of, it's my comfort food for games,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, did that sum it up for you, or is there anything else?
Well, yeah, well, you just talk about whatever you want to talk about. Any specific memories you have with it? Any levels that stuck out to you as a child?
Oh, man. Each, and not to, I don't know, not to make this sound more heavy or anything than it really is, but yeah, but because it also was such a stretched out thing for me, each section of the game was its own experience for me. Like I remember for some reason, like this still sticks in my head every time, but like that area, I can't remember what it's called, like area number 6. Man, the way I always describe it in my head, Chocolate Island. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Right after the Forest of Illusion?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Which Forest of Illusion is probably my favorite area. But Chocolate Island, for some reason, like that always sticks out in my head because it just reminds me of chocolate Pop-Tarts. I don't know why. Like all the background, like the geometric shapes in the background and everything, it's like a bunch of just Pop-Tarts. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just such a great game, and yeah, as far as like specific experience or anything, the whole thing is special to me. Like there's not one part that sticks out any more than the other.
Okay.
What about you?
Well, let's take a quick break first, and then after that we'll come back and I'll talk about my childhood experience with the game.
Cool.
All right, so stick around. Okay, and welcome back. All right, so we just talked about Chris's experiences when he was a child, and we're going to talk about mine. Oh, sounds like you got a dog in the background.
That's not mine. That's yours.
Oh, really? Is it?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, so everyone excuse me. I'm recording this in my kitchen. So I do have a couple dogs. But anyhow, so I too had a regular Nintendo, the NES. And wow, they're really barking. Hopefully they'll calm down. So I had a regular Nintendo, and I had Super Mario Brothers 1, and I never owned 2, but I rented it a lot. And then
that's a good one.
And then eventually I got Super Mario Brothers 3, and I love 3. And I played that game to death. But I didn't get a Super Nintendo until the Christmas of 1994. So I was 10 at that time. It was actually a gift from my great aunt Dolores. We didn't have tons of money, and like I talked about earlier, $200 is equivalent to $400 today. So for any parent, that's a lot of money to drop down on a console.
Oh, and do you mind if I just chime in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that $400. Do you see how expensive the games were back then? Like if you go look up like an old CD catalog or like the JCPenney, those games were like $100 a pop back then. I mean, not all of them, but I mean, you're looking at games that were like $60 or $70 back then, which that's like almost double that nowadays.
Almost
like,
double, yeah.
Yeah, could you imagine spending $140 to play, BioShock 3 or something like that?
Yeah, that'd be a tough pill to swallow.
All right, sorry, go on.
No, great. Chime in whenever you like. But for me and my brothers, we hooked it up. I think to a 19-inch TV. It was I I can't even remember the name of it, but it's right there on the tip of my tongue. I actually called my mother and I was talking to her about this earlier, and so we hooked it up. And one of the first things that I noticed was the controller. So where we went from the NES, where we had a D-pad, start select, and we had the BA, we had this, start select D-pad. Then we had 4 face buttons, the BAXY, and now we had 2 left and right shoulder triggers. And that itself blew me away. That felt like the next gen upgrade.
Oh, and didn't it just fit in your hand so perfect too, compared to that rectangle Nintendo controller? Like it just fit so good, and those buttons just felt so smooth, and they did a great job with that design.
Oh, absolutely, and especially being 10, my hands are smaller than they are now, so it was a lot easier to just kind of control and manage, and didn't hurt my hands like long periods of time, like playing the NES did.
Yeah, with the corners dug into your palms.
Oh God.
Yeah.
But we saw the. Sorry, I'm starting. So we had the controller and we noticed that right off the bat. And when we plugged it up and got Super Mario World running, because it was the packing game, one of the first things was just the visual upgrade, just how many different colors and how bright everything was, and how kind of poppy the music was.
Oh no, totally. Well, and just even not only were the levels were like 3-dimensional, but the music was too. Like it was rich music.
Yeah, there felt like there was a lot more depth to it than, say, its predecessors with Super Mario 1, 2, and 3. We really were amazed by how big some of the enemies were, especially in the earlier levels. There's a Bonsai Bill that that I died to a lot as a kid. Because I couldn't get in that little depression and duck down. But it was just amazing. I was just blown away by the sounds, the sights, the feel of the controller. So all that was just kind of just overwhelming as a 10-year-old, especially, me. I was just obsessed with video games.
Mm-hmm.
Every month I was reading my Nintendo Power magazine, just diving into that thing. And I was salivating over the prospect of owning a Super Nintendo. So finally getting it was just out of this world.
All your little dreams came true.
All my little dreams came true. Yeah, so I kind of wish I hadn't done that, because I already knew about some of the new moves, like the spin jump and the power-ups like the feather, and I knew about Yoshi. But even though some of those things might have been quote unquote spoiled for me, it was still just so amazing playing it for real, having it in my hand and being able to play the video game. One thing I really liked was the addition of ghost houses.
Yeah.
I thought they were a little scary because of the music that played, and just how they looked. Because
and the backgrounds were just black, like just abyss black.
Yeah, you had these black backgrounds. You had transparency, so you had the ghosts kind of coming in and out of existence. Mm-hmm. And then later on, you had like the larger boos.
Yeah.
So it definitely got a little nerve-wracking for a 10-year-old.
Oh, and when you roll up to the ghost house, and if you have Yoshi, the fact that it shows you like entering the ghost house, and you hop off Yoshi, you're like, wait.
Yeah.
How come Yoshi can't come? Like, he's my safety blanket.
Because Yoshi was like your safety blanket. Like, you knew that if you got hit with him, you were still good as long as you were able to get back on him, and keep going. But you had to leave him behind.
But yeah, no, the ghost house was great. What a great addition.
Yeah, and earlier you said that you thought that I probably beat it in a couple weeks. It was months of playing it.
Oh,
Um,
okay, awesome.
yeah, I definitely did not beat it in a couple weeks. It wasn't until I got one of the Mario Mania players guides by resubscribing to Nintendo Power that I was able to get all of the 96 exits and 100% the game. But that was a very long time coming. I got stuck on some of the levels that have two exits.
Hmm.
Oh, which that's also something to talk about was how that was a huge departure from like Mario 3. You saw the map as it was already. Like it didn't change and move, whereas in a Super Mario World, going and beating a new level meant that it was building.
You're carving a path. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't know at first that the little red dots on the levels indicated that there was um, more than one way out.
Oh man, see, I remember that was one thing that really stuck out with me is because the first level in Donut Plains has like the little helper boxes, and that was the one saying, like that said some maps have more than one exit. If you look at the, I don't know, it basically just said that the ones with the red dots had more than one exit. So then, like, I really, even as a little kid, I just zeroed in on that. Everyone that had a red dot, I'm like, where is it? Like,
See, that must have just missed me completely because I never ever knew that until I got that player's guide, or I might have read it in Nintendo Power. It's been about how long? 27 years now.
yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's been a little while. And you also talked about Star Road, which is I did find that as a kid, and I was blown away.
Man, yeah, well, and the fact that, yeah, each one of those, it took me a minute too to figure out because each one of those has two exits too.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, completing the level normally doesn't get you any progress. You have to find the secret exit.
and I remember I used Star Road when I was a kid. Like, that was like, like my Yoshi arsenal because each Star Road had a different colored Yoshi that it provided at the beginning of the stage.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
anytime I was like working through the map, I was like, I need the yellow Yoshi. Time to go to Star Road.
Oh, Blue Yoshi was my man.
Oh, see, I was gonna ask you. That was one of the questions I was gonna ask you was what was your favorite Yoshi?
Oh, Blue by far.
Oh, see,
Um,
mine was yellow, and looking back on it, it served no purpose. Like the whole stomp mechanic, there were no special enemies that required you to stomp them or anything like that. Like Yoshi was by far like the most useful one, but for some reason in my head, I liked the yellow one, and I died so many times because of that. Just my little kid stubbornness, like having to use the yellow one.
yeah. Were you able to beat all the levels in the super Secret Star Road or
Oh yeah, like gnarly and tubular and like
yes,
yeah, all that
tubular.
stuff.
Ugh.
Yeah, well, like I was saying, like back with I was watching my stepmom. She was the first one to like I knew what Star Road was, and and I didn't know that if you. Oh, sorry about the car driving by. Um, but yeah, I didn't know that if you beat it, it took you to like wherever you want to call it. Like what was that area called? Um, any idea?
Are you talking about the super secret area
Yeah.
or
Or
I'm
was
not
it
100% sure.
literally called Super Secret Area?
It might have been.
But but yeah, like my stepmom was the first one to I was watching her play one time and she was going there and I remember there was this one weekend where they spent like the goal for that weekend was to try to beat at least one of those levels and my stepmom taking her turns trying to beat it, my dad taking him trying to beat it. And when they couldn't get through it, they handed me the controller. I was like, oh, I felt like I just got called in by coach, and of course I did not beat it, but But yeah, I was very aware of that from the very beginning, or not from the very beginning, but like when they discovered it. So from my perspective, as far as like my progress to the game, I knew what was in store for me, and I knew that the game was gonna eventually at one point the game was gonna get impossible. but
When you were younger, where did you go to score your 1-ups?
oh man, this sounds, it was a giant waste of time. But you know that oh wait, that's what the super secret area above the ghost house in Donut Plains.
I was just about to talk about that place.
Yep, that was the place that I remember. Like when I found out about, like that was the number one tip that you wanted to tell your friends who were starting to play for the first time. Like that was the big Easter egg that you wanted to, that you wanted the privilege of telling somebody how to get to that place. And yeah, I would go there and pop a Yoshi, and then go out and go back in, go out, go back in, go out and go back in, and what a I probably spent hours as a kid just in that one little area. If you add up all the time that I spent in there.
Yeah,
What about
absolutely.
you?
Oh, that was same exact spot. I would as soon as I unlocked that secret and I found that area, I'd do the same thing. I'd go in and get Yoshi, and then after that, I'd just get a 1-up every time.
Oh, and the worst part about it was I'd be like on Chocolate Island or whatever. If I needed power ups and I needed a couple more lives and everything, I would take the time to go back one node at a time, beep, 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 like walking all the way back to the beginning just to go to that area to power up, and then go all the way back to get to pick up where I left off from.
Yeah, I would absolutely do the same thing, and especially when I got to the Valley of Bowser, it was just so dark and ominous that I was actually a little scared as a kid. So I made sure that I went and maxed out my lives before I went and challenged Bowser.
Man, and that particular area, because pretty much whenever I was playing it, like I was up visiting my dad, so it felt kind of special. But yeah, like the Bowser area, didn't it have like fireworks going off up in the sky in the background? Oh no, it was lightning, wasn't it? And
Yeah,
you could see, but that area just felt like such a little, like a rock star area, because it was just, I don't know.
and the music.
Yeah,
It did have that undertone of kind of like rock music playing in the background.
Right, and just and the aesthetics of it, everything, like that area was war. Like it was over the top. It was dark. It was kind of supposed to be scary and kind of cartoony at the same time. But like I used to love that area just because it just felt like a little rock concert or something. Like it was so cool.
Yeah, and completing Bowser's Castle and getting all the way to the final boss when you have that showdown with Bowser. My youngest brother is afraid of clowns. And
you talking about Sylvan?
yes, I am. And the clown car terrified him.
Like legit terrified him?
Yes, he was not a fan of that.
Oh man.
And speaking of that whole fight, like everything kind of goes away. There's no timer. There's no score.
Yeah, it almost looks like the screen like grows, like like the HUD or whatever you want to call it, all disappears, and it almost makes your TV look like it grows a couple inches, like it's sucking you in.
It made that fight huge. Because they gave you the entire screen, and this is what you had to do. This was the last challenge of the game. You had to beat Bowser, and I really enjoyed it. I liked that you had to do something different than you did previously in the game. And, you had to stomp on the little robotic Bowser minions.
The Mecha Coopers or the Mecha.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
And you had to kick
throw
them up in the
above.
air.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was different too. You had to like time it so that way you chuck them up and they arc down on top of them. Yeah. Oh
And
man. And
if
speaking
that
of this,
wasn't something you did earlier in the game, you probably were going to have a hard time.
oh no, I totally remember like bouncing so many of those things off the bottom of it as a little frustrated little kid, going, "Why isn't it hurting him?" Like because everything else in the game, you hit it like any way you hit it from, it's fine. You know, like this was the first thing where you actually had to aim for a special spot, and it just happened to be the top spot. And if you're 7 years old, that might take a minute to figure out. Oh, but yeah, speaking of that scary clown, yeah, the third stage of it, when the clown car loses the smile and turns
Mm-hmm.
into like
Yeah.
the pissed off one and is trying to stomp you. I will admit, I do remember being terrified of that part, like panic setting, just going, oh
It was
crap, oh crap,
scary.
oh crap. Yeah. How long did it take you to finally beat him?
I died way more than once.
Oh, I wouldn't even have a clue. That I mean, that was one of those things that it probably took me a lot of days, a lot of weekends trying to figure that fight out.
Yeah, well, getting through the castle was no joke.
Oh yeah, and actually, and that fight at the end, I remember it was tough enough that because it required you to go through that castle over and over and over, that you even figure out, because that castle had what, 8 doors in it, and just having to get up to that boss fight so many times, even before the internet, before walkthroughs and all that stuff, you still figure out, okay, if I go in door number 2 first and then go in door number 7, that's the quickest way straight to the boss. You know, like, yeah,
Yeah.
just man, the replayability of that game really lets you hone in on your skills in that game.
Oh, definitely. But was there anything, any alibis, any more comments that you have for the game?
Oh no, this is the most I've talked about this game with anybody in ever.
Yeah.
So this is nice.
All right. Well, let's take another break, and then when we come back, we'll discuss what it's like playing it as adults. All right. So take a break, and we'll see you right back. And we're back. All right, Chris. So I just finished talking about what it was like playing the game as a child, and here we are as adults, and still loving the game today. Well, hopefully. And so, how did you play it? And what are your thoughts on Super Mario World today?
Well, I personally, like I mentioned earlier, I never actually got the game for myself until I got a Wii console, got it on the Virtual Console, and that became, one of my go-to regular games. And then I've got a Switch, and the Switch basically gives you the game for free when you have the little online service. So I still play it all the time. And this was actually like as an adult with a kid. Um, I'm actually I was hoping to use Mario to introduce my son to video games the same way I was introduced to video games with Mario, but also um, Super Mario one was the one that kind of stuck for him. Like that was the because I showed him Mario 1, showed him Mario 2, showed him, like, and when I say show him, I mean like that was like when I wanted to play something and I didn't want to have something inappropriate on, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I would have, yeah, like, and it's nice having a Switch because you can just kind of play it handheld or something. And if he glances over my shoulder and, I'm not it's relatively kid friendly. So, but yeah, Super Mario World was the one that kind of he's like, hey, what's that? I want to play Mario, and sorry about that, but yeah, playing it today, it's just it holds up. I play it not as often as I did when I was a kid, but I still at least once or twice a year I'll still play through it just for a nostalgia trip. And sorry to keep talking, but one thing that I've noticed, like playing this game, I've played other, like the retro games, and like when you play some of the old other ones, like for example, I mean, Sean, you're super into retro games, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And when you play games like Excite Bike or Kung Fu or anything like that, like you can feel the age on those games. Am I right?
Yeah, there's definitely some games that have not aged very well.
Yeah. But Mario, and particularly Super Mario World, doesn't feel like it. I don't. When I'm playing it, I don't stop and think, "Oh my God, this game's 30 years old." Like, or however many years it is. But
30.
okay, cool. But yeah, I mean, to me, it still feels fresh. It still feels smooth and clean and contemporary. Like it's still a great game. How often do you play it?
Well, Super Mario World, I don't play it that often. I definitely I replayed it for the podcast, obviously. But when I go into my thoughts as playing adult, I'm gonna go a little bit more into that.
Oh, cool. But as far as thoughts as playing it, yeah, nowadays, one thing I have noticed, and I even noticed it when I was a kid, but like I said, I was playing Super Mario World simultaneously as I was playing 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and you got to admit, were way harder than Super Mario World.
Much harder.
Yeah. Super Mario World always felt like it was designed to. Obviously, it was designed to showcase the Super Nintendo and everything it could do, and hey, this is the game was basically just a showpiece to convince people to spend their money on a new system. But it was also with that in mind, I think it was made to be easier to appeal to more people because like Super Mario 2 in my opinion was a little bit harder than Super Mario 1. Super Mario 3 was harder than Super Mario 2. If they would have made Super Mario World, which was essentially Super Mario 4, harder than 3, nobody would have beaten that thing for years, except well, I should say kids wouldn't have been able to beat it. But yeah, I mean it is when I replay it nowadays, it's more for nostalgia, for turning my brain off, just enjoying the ride.
Yeah, like you
Whereas
said earlier, it was your comfort food.
yeah, exactly. If I want a challenge, I play Mario 1 or Mario 3.
That's
But
true.
what about you?
Well, I played it on the Super Nintendo Classic Edition, and so I could hook it up to my TV. Uh, and I feel that the controls are tight and they're precise. Uh, it still looks phenomenal. It still sounds phenomenal. Um, you did hit on the difficulty being nowhere near what Super Mario Brothers 3 was.
Yeah.
And to me, and this may be an unpopular opinion, I don't think it's as good as Super Mario Bros. 3.
No, yeah, I would agree with that. And and I mean, and you mentioned that to me earlier in a previous conversation. And I was like, what? Like, but and you're right. I mean, like Super Mario 3 was loaded with features and stuff, but also, I mean, for me, the difficulty is kind of like the big giant sign saying, you know, I'm for easy players, like, and that kind of does kind of take away for it. And one thing that we were talking about earlier when you said about, like, what do you do for extra lives? Like, I had to go back to that special area as a kid over and over and over. As an adult, every time I play through it, by the time I get through the second area, I'm already up to like 30 spare lives, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't have it. Like, I don't have to stop. I've never seen a continuous screen for Super Mario as an adult because it just it doesn't kill you the same way 1, 2, and 3 does.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, I didn't get my Super Nintendo until 1994, so I was still playing Super Mario Brothers 3. And even though it took me months to complete Super Mario World, that's mostly out of just not really understanding the mechanics very well when I was younger, not being able to fly very well, which we didn't even talk about that.
Oh yeah, I was
Yeah,
horrible at
when
it.
getting the feather, like that was a lot different than having the leaf and being, Raccoon Mario.
Mm-hmm.
And with comparison to Super Mario Bros. 3, uh, the overworld in Super Mario 3 had toad houses that you could visit to gain power ups. You had Hammer Brothers that roamed the level. Sometimes there were floating battleships. You could break rocks with hammers to skip some levels and bypass them, or using the cloud to bypass a level entirely. There was also putting those Hammer Brothers to sleep by using the jukebox.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I felt. Oh, go ahead.
oh, and also with all those items, also one thing to keep note of in Mario 3, those things were all finite. There were only what 3 P clouds in the entire game that you can get. There were only 3 whistles. There were only a couple of those jukeboxes to put things to sleep. Like when you filled your little inventory of your little bag of tricks, you can only fill it so many times. Whereas in Super Mario World, you could always go back to that secret area and refill your mushrooms and your feathers and your Yoshis and
Yeah,
your lives. Like there, Mario 3 was like, hey, you just burned your last. I remember getting to the end of Super Mario 3 and like having nothing in my inventory left but mushrooms and just resorting like, oh, all I've got are mushrooms and stars. Oh no, like
yeah, that's all you had.
yeah, and there was no place to go farm some more.
Mm-hmm. And I really liked the power ups that you got in Super Mario Brothers 3. You had the raccoon suit, obviously with the leaf. You had the Tanuki suit, the frog suit, the fire flower. You had the Hammer Brothers suit. So there was a lot more going on instead of Super Mario Brothers. Super Mario World, where all you had was the fire flower and the cape.
Yeah.
So I feel that they kind of they took 2 steps forward and 1 step back, in my opinion.
But I
They
think, like,
go ahead.
well, in Mario 3, I think each area, like, obviously, World 3 was like the water world, and that's where you're going to get your frog suits, and that's where you're going to really use them. Um, I feel like they used power ups to kind of help define that area, whereas in Super Mario World, they use the area itself to define the area. Because, like, well, like in Illusion Forest, like the environment changed more than the power. Like obviously the power ups don't change, but each area was so different than the previous area. Whereas in Mario 3, the items changed in each area compared to the next area. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, I think they used the map and the levels to kind of change the flavor rather than using items to change the flavor like what they did in Mario 3.
That's fair.
But
One
yeah, they totally did. Like, yeah, it was Mario World. Yeah, you got feathers and you got flowers, and that's it.
yeah, they didn't give you a whole lot to go with, but it did require you to kind of master that feather though. If you were
Yeah.
not good with the cape, then you were going to be struggling on a lot of those levels, especially
Oh
finding all
no.
the secret exits.
Yeah, I was horrible with the cape, but I remember it blew my mind when I watched that one area where the first level. in Donut Plains where the little you go through the pipe and there's that area where you fly and collect all the coins up in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching my dad fly across that thing, no problem. And as a little kid, I was like, "What?" Like, I basically, as a little kid, I used the feather as a slow fall method, and as and to slap enemies. But yeah, the feather, the cape to me was just a slow fall when I was a kid. Now that I'm an adult, I can actually use it to fly across the stage.
And it does kind of trivialize some of those levels because you can just do that.
Yeah.
But I liked, I've been bashing Super Mario World, but some things I did like was that this was a whole new area. We weren't in the Mushroom Kingdom anymore. We're now in Dinosaur Land. And so that brought, like, areas you were talking about earlier, the Donut Plains, Vanilla Dome, Cookie Mountain, Chocolate Island. All those places were unique and new, and each one was visually distinct, and they introduced new enemies, and that brought with it, learning how to fight off a brand new batch of bad guys.
Yeah. When I was playing just this last go through, I literally had to call my son and I'm like, hey, check out the Blarg. And I think that's the name of the guy, but the little...
Yep, the one that in the lava.
Yeah, exactly. And Gibson was like, oh, cool. Can you make him come back out again?
Yeah, I would really wish I could have seen this game as a 5-year-old instead of a 10-year-old. I think that it would have been even more magical. One thing I wanted to hit up on that's in my notes here. So in Super Mario Brothers 3, if you had a power up, you were Raccoon Mario and you got hit, you didn't go down all the way to regular Mario. You just went to Super Mario.
Yeah.
But in Super Mario World, if you have your power up and you get hit, you're regular Mario. And you have one more hit. So I think maybe that was what they were trying to do with a little trade-off to make things a little more difficult. But being able to have a spare power-up, in the center of your screen right there, kind of trivialized that difficulty that they were trying to achieve.
Yeah. I would definitely have to agree with that too, because as long as you had anything up in that little box up above, you knew you were good.
Yeah, and if you had a feather up there, that could get dicey on some of the auto-scrolling levels, because if you got hit, you had to wait for that thing to come down. Yep. Oh man, that could be bad.
But
when I replayed it for the podcast, I was just trying to beat it as quickly as possible and beat as many levels as I could. So this is by no means, any type of expert level here, but I beat it in around 3 hours and 45 minutes, and with 74 of the exits. I did not complete all the super secret Star Road stuff. I don't have those skills anymore, I guess.
Oh, I'm sure you do, but it's going to take some refreshers. But I was also going to try to beat it before the podcast, and I will admit, I was going to try to do a speed run and just see how quickly I could get it through, but I couldn't do it. As soon as I came up to that first place, where there's 2 exits, like I'm too much of a completionist where I am working my way through it, and I have to 100% it. Otherwise, it's just going to eat at me. So I have, as far as like when we said we were going to do this podcast, a week or 2 ago, I have not actually beaten it yet, but I am, as far as I'm getting up to Chocolate Island, and it is 100% up until that point so far.
Yeah, I definitely did not do that. If I couldn't remember how to get out of an exit, then I just kept going.
Oh man, and see that's the And I've never had to. The only thing ever since playing this game as an adult, because like I mentioned, I replay it often enough. But the only thing I've ever had to Google was whether or not that 97 meant 97% or 97 exits, or is it 96?
It's 96.
96. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, did I leave something behind? But one good indicator when you actually do beat it is the which I mean, have you ever gotten all 96 and turned it into Bizarro World or whatever?
Yeah, when everything kind of looks like it's fall.
Yeah, I saw that online. Somebody called it Autumn World or whatever like that, but
yeah, everything takes that orange hue.
Mm-hmm.
The Koopa Troopas look more like Mario.
Yeah, they look goofy.
Yeah,
but yeah, don't they all have like little baby Mario heads or something like that? Or
yeah, they have kind of deformed Mario faces.
I wonder. I'm sure there's a story behind that, and I'd like to look that up sometime. It probably should have been something I looked up before we did this podcast, but I didn't think of it.
Well, I didn't think of it either, and nobody's going to fault you for that.
But
all right, so final thoughts. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, not. I mean, man, I think we covered it all. Such a great game, and if anybody stumbles upon this and hasn't actually played the game, do yourself a favor, just play it, because it is just one of those games that I think it'll be timeless. Like, as long as you have a decent controller and not like some knockoff generic controller where your controllers are actually, the controls are tight. There's no delay when you hit the jump button and stuff like that. It's such a great game. And it still replays so well.
Absolutely. All right. Well, if you don't have anything else, I think we'll wrap it up. We're almost to the almost at the hour mark for this podcast. So, Chris, I want to thank you for your time. It was great to have you.
Oh, and, thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely want to have you back on and maybe discuss some more games.
Oh man, I would love to. There's so many games that when we were talking about this game, it made me want to start talking about other, like Mario 3. Like, we talked about Mario 3 probably enough to start its own podcast on Mario 3 alone. But yeah, it was. Yeah, no, this was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, and I thank you, and I wouldn't mind going back through Mario 3 and talking about that game.
Oh man, yeah, I'll definitely have to do a speed run before that one.
All right, well, that's gonna be all, and for all of you out there, thank you very much, and I hope you come back and start listening to the rest of this brand new series. And thank you.